Coming up, a massive Six Nations preview with guests old and new. What are we expecting this year? Can Scotland finally capitalize on their golden generation? Have Ireland aged out of the top five? Will England break all of our hearts by being good? And whisper it, is the Six Nations good? Stick around to find out. This is the Scrum of the Earth. Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, your go-to for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more, all about the world of rugby. My name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm easy to find on all your socials, and you can always drop an email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, as you have no doubt deduced, this is yet another bonus episode. This time, I'm thrilled to announce the return of a beloved guest and the introduction of a brand new one. Here to preview the upcoming men's Six Nations tournament is not that kind of Dr. Harley Worthy. Harley, welcome back. It's absolutely lovely to see you. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, David. And yeah, it's always great to be back on the show. And I don't want to spoil your intro, but I'm up against an actual real that kind of doctor tonight, so that should be interesting.
I always like to ask, how is the family and how's the wee little one getting on?
Well, I mean the two wee little ones now because said
Oh, that's
baby
right.
yes, baby Roger was born back in August. Yeah, so that's been a bit of a handful, especially with my weird work situation at the moment. But
Wow.
we're getting on we're getting on fine. So the little one is only ruling the roost now. She's nearly 3, and by word is she the princess that no one tried to make her, but it's definitely that kind of princess.
Well, also, as I said at the top, we've got a brand new guest. You'll know him from the Scottish Rugby Podcast, or perhaps from your local D&D group. Coming to us from the Ghost Tower of Inverness, it's Alan MacDonald. Alan, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thanks, David. Thank you so much for having me on. It's lovely to meet Harley. We've interacted on in the bad place on Twitter and I think in Blood and Mud sort of group. So it's nice. It's nice to put a face to the name. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah,
Well, welcome,
pleasure's all
welcome
mine.
to both of you. I really appreciate your time and your insights. As we're sitting here right now, we're only one sleep away from the 2026 incarnation of the Men's Six Nations tournament. Alan, I'll start with a bit of trivia. How many teams traditionally compete in the Six Nations?
This feels like a QI question. It feels like the obvious answer is the wrong one.
I have dropped that dumbass joke on several people over the years I've been doing this show, and not once have I gotten a laugh. Quite rightly, but that's not going to stop me from taking another swing next year. Rest assured.
Grand.
Yes,
I would
but
say five in
it's
England, but
funny
not a home team.
because I talked to rugby wonks and they're all like, "Well, wait, it wasn't always the Six Nations. Is this a trick? Is it going to be like 5.2?"
I was just going to go for a big thing of, oh well, it's only ever been 5 because either Scotland, Wales, or Italy have been really shit throughout the.
It's never really hit the six. um,
Oh.
This year's tournament kicks off on a Thursday, weirdly enough. This is the first time that's happened since 1948, I read, and it's due to the opening ceremonies for the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina on Friday. Our curtain raiser, though, is a big one. France versus Ireland. That match should set the stage nicely. France, they enter as reigning champions, having taken the title back from Ireland last year. With Antoine Dupont back in the mix and France enjoying 3 home games this year, including the finale against England. They're favorites for many people, probably myself included. However, Ireland remains a powerhouse under Andy Farrell. Harley, give us your excitement level, 1 to 10, heading into this fixture, and what are you expecting to see?
This fixture specifically and the start of Six Nations is sort of getting to the sort of 7-8. I mean, I think by the time we get to Thursday evening, I'm going to be bouncing because I love a good game of Thursday night rugby. Whether it was Welsh, even when it was Welsh Premiership, even if something like Bucks on a Wednesday, midweek rugby is great rugby. And the best thing is I have no stake in which team wins, which always
Yeah.
makes it a little bit more enjoyable for me. So I can get to see things like Louis beep beep going absolutely nuts and doing something crazy, seeing what new and interesting ways people can both defend and absolutely slate Sam Prendergast. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fantastic
Gonna
opener, I
be a
think.
lot of that. Safe bet. It's funny. The as you know, Harley, I follow the NPC, and for years in a row they did the Storm Week, where they basically sandwich in an extra fixture. So it's like you play on a Saturday and then a Wednesday and then the next Sunday. And I was always like, yes, because I wake up Thursday morning and there's a game in the bag for me to watch. And I was such a huge fan of the Storm Week, and then Major League Rugby introduced it, and I was like, Go to a game on a Tuesday? Outrageous.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember COVID, I was going to say during COVID times, the URC started doing Monday night games, which is
I
quite a
forgot
novelty,
that.
apart from the fact that they seem to all be Cardiff.
Well, Alan, same question. What's your excitement level heading into opening weekend and this fixture in particular? And what are you expecting to see between the number 4 and number 5 teams in the world when they come together at the Stade de France? On paper, it couldn't be much closer, right?
I think, yeah, and I think I would agree with you that France are the favourites for me for the tournament as well. But you mean you can never write off Ireland, but it's an aging Ireland side. And on the other hand, though, the France, you just get the impression that the France squad isn't terribly happy. It's not a terribly happy
Mm.
place. Players like Peno have been left out, and it just feels like there's stories that we're not hearing. And they didn't have a great autumn. Is Galtier in trouble if they don't do well in this Six Nations? And I think that might be interesting. So seeing how these two behemoths approach this game will be really exciting, and I'm always excited for the Six Nations.
It almost feels like I imagined it, but a few years ago, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, the players weren't happy and were sort of openly unhappy under Galtier. And like, Altrad showed up in the locker room and was like, guess what? He's your coach. Get over it and shut up, basically. And the players were like, okay. And it seemed to work. But they haven't mentioned it since then. But you're right. It still feels like maybe that unhappiness is creeping back in.
And I think it's easier to do the he's your coach, so shut up when results are going your way. When the results stop going your way, then suddenly it's all he's lost the dressing room. Il a perdu. I don't know the French for dressing room. Chambre, chambre
Le chambre
de
de dressing.
choses. Yeah.
Uh, on Saturday, Scotland go to Rome to face Italy in a match they'll be favored to win. Alan, are the words Scotland are favored to win the most dread inducing words you can think of?
I mean, yes, clearly, but because, and we'll probably touch on this later, because the Six Nations essentially turns me into a puppy repeatedly running into a mirror, I am hopeful about the Six Nations, and I'm hopeful. And look, if Scotland are going to be the team that we hope they are, and we think they can be, and that they've shown us in glimpses,
Mm.
they have to be not fearful about beating Italy. They have to be going out. They have to be going out there expecting to win. Not being complacent, but knowing that they can win if they play their game.
Harley for Italy, breakout star Eduardo Todaro, who has 10 tries in 13 games for Northampton this season, tore his ACL in training and is out for the season. Just terrible news for the Azzurri. While Scotland are pretty healthy at the moment, they welcoming back Sione as captain. He missed last year entirely. And the likes of old stalwarts like Dave Cherry are back as well. Harley, I don't know if you remember this. I patted myself on the back for nicknaming Dave Cherry the stairman of the board after his World Cup mishap, but you had a much better one. Do you remember it?
I actually can't remember.
You called him
I just
Slinky.
Slinky, that was the one.
Harley, what are you looking for as keys to this match? It feels like we might have two good ones to start off this tournament.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think interesting thing is going to be the Italian halfbacks. You know, their first choice, Pajarello and Garbisi. They haven't been starting for their top 14 sides an awful lot, apart from their sort of throwaway away fixtures. So I'll be wondering how ready they are and how much, if they had enough game time, they fit up enough of that. Scotland, there's always the issue of whenever they're favourites, they seem to sort of have a bit of a mind block. But looking like some of the results over the past in the Six Nations, they should be mentally strong enough to get over Italy. Same when we took later on with the opponents in Wales, another one who, it's seen as sort of a stumbling block for them. Another one for Italy is, I believe, Tommy Allen's out, and he's been quite essential
Yeah.
for them in the last couple of years as a reliable goal kicker, someone who can sort of allow Garbisi to do the wonderful shit and he just takes it almost a bit like Tommy Ramos with that. I'm going to make sure playing in the right fit areas. You just come onto the ball when we actually want something flash. So I think Ange Capozzo was out, or was he back fit? I can't remember. So there's a couple of injuries to some of these young, exciting
I
Italian
thought
players.
I thought
Which,
Capuozzo was still out, but
yeah, I can't. I remember hearing on one podcast saying he was back in, and other ones they're saying he's out. So I'm not entirely sure of that one. Of
he's
if
one of those
it,
players I just constantly expect to get hurt because he just looks so little.
he generally looks a lot like the young boys who were at rugby tots with my daughter in height and physique. It's actually quite funny.
He looks very like the singer of Echo Belly, Sonia, which was a sort of middling Britpop act that were actually reasonable, but yeah, he does not look like a pro rugby player.
Britpop. uh, Alan, Finn Russell has been trading barbs with Scotland players and fans online after his Bath team dispensed with Edinburgh quite thoroughly in Europe. I heard talk that he'll be riding those Edinburgh players during camp, but with Duhan ignominiously left out of the squad, are there any Edinburgh players to wind up?
I think Duhan's in the squad, but I don't think we expect him to be picked.
Mm,
He certainly got picked for Edinburgh, which would militate against him starting for Scotland.
right,
Um,
right.
I Yeah, it's listen. I work with a Welsh chap, and sometimes things are just so bad it's not fun teasing people. Sorry, Harley. Um, I
I
but
don't worry about it.
I think teasing Edinburgh fans is a bit like shooting fish in a barrel at the moment. So um, I think Finn should be better than that. But the Edinburgh team, the Edinburgh players will just have to take it. They surely would have dished it out to Finn if he had been beaten by them. So not
Is
that
there a
that's
Darcy Graham
important.
health update?
I
As in,
think
he has none.
no. I think so. Darcy's not injured. He's out of form. But that's because he plays in the wing for an Edinburgh team that can't get him the ball in space. And I mean, I'm not Johnny McGinty. I'm not here to stick the boot into Edinburgh. But the difficulty is Edinburgh don't have the kind of straight running centre, which means that basically defences can just crab across the park knowing that the ball's going to be shipped, which means that, and they know that Darcy and Doohan are threats. So they know that they can cover Darcy and Doohan because no one's going to try and go straight from the centres. And obviously with Scotland, we very much have a carrying threat and a offloading and passing and kicking threat in Shoni Tuibulotu. So he keeps defences guessing.
For
So
sure.
Darcy, I think, will come into the squad, into the team.
Alan, from a forwards point of view, give us the keys to a Scotland win this weekend.
Dominance up front, and I think Townsend will pick with that in mind. Interesting that Rory Sutherland's playing the A game rather than being on the bench for the Scotland game. Normally, you would see him
Hmm.
as Schoeman's backup. So Nathan Macbeth must have impressed the scrum coaches in training, which is good. It's good to have good players coming through. And Sutherland's been a wee bit out of touch really since Worcester Warriors went bust. I think he had to trek all over. He played for Ulster for a bit. So his family are sort of back home in Scotland, and he's sort of all about the place, trying to playing rugby. So I don't think he had a particularly good time, and I think that was probably reflected in his rugby.
What was Skuman's quote this week? Unleash the gorilla, unchain the gorilla, something, uncage the gorilla. I think he said something like that.
Yeah, Scuman's been brilliant, and that's one of the interesting things. Because I'm quite into sports psychology and things. I got into it through a brief infatuation with golf, and the key thing is process. You look at the next thing. You don't get ahead of yourself, etc. And Scotland have always been bad in interviews for saying, well, if we do this, and yeah, we could set up a Grand Slam decider, and in the final match, etc. And what has been really clear this time round is there is none of that from Scotland.
Hmm.
It's all very much. And Scuman was interesting. We go. If we go to process and talking about forward props going to the dark place and things. So he's always good value in an interview, Scuman, but it's been really striking that neither coaching team nor players are getting ahead of themselves. It's all, well, we just need to focus on beating Italy. And yeah, for once, finally, I think they might have got the sports psychology right.
Well, we'll get into this in a bit, but this is kind of a great example of why I'm not convinced this tournament is all it's cracked up to be. The final match this weekend will be England hunkered down at Allianz London to meet Wales, who, spoiler alert, are in a bit of a downturn these last few years. I don't know if I shared it with both of you. I saw just a little graphic on the BBC showing the last, what's I think since 2020, the sort of bar graph of team success in the Six Nations, and it's like Wales looks like it's falling off a cliff, and England and France are kind of all up and down. Italy's slowly edging up. Scotland's like flatline. I think we should probably call him Flatline Toonsy at this point. But um, I'm just curious. Let me give you a couple of tidbits, Harley. Maybe these are good signs. Steve Borthwick dealing with a staggering 12 players unavailable for England in the opener, including fly-offs Finn Smith and fullback agent George Furbank, who are both major doubts or ruled out entirely. Two, it could be a new dawn for Wales under Steve Tandy. A change of culture can often create a little bounce. Three, Dowie Lakes, your new captain. I think he's a difference maker. And you've got former Jacksonville Jaguar practice squad player Lewis Rees-Zammit. No, sorry. Back in the starting side. By the way, I've spent a lot of time praising and criticizing LRZ on this show, but it's undeniable he's been on fire for the Bears this season. Harley, any of those actual bright spots for you or silver linings that I've missed? Like, if you're Steve Tandy, what are you saying to put the belief into your players before this match?
Uh, I I mean, you clearly haven't listened to this week's rap because I've been incredibly down on our chances as Six Nations.
I'm trying to pretend.
I genuinely think the only thing we've got to do at the moment is just hoping to for them to work on their systems and to show, just give us something to hope for. Like, I'm not expecting to win. I'm not even expecting it to be close. But if we can at least see some evolution from the autumn, in the autumn we start to see some decent attacking shape. Now let's improve the kicking game and the defense. If we can see, if when we go out on Saturday and then we get to the game against Italy and we can see a progression, that's going to be great for us. As for the injury front, yeah, we've lost Finn Smith, but they've still got George Ford. And there'll be a theme here now. He's a master at kicking. Yes, they lost George Furbank, but they're using Freddie Stewart, who is massive and very good in the air. That was a huge weakness for us in the autumn. And I think that Tandy's used that as sort of a gut reaction when you look at the back three players he's picked. And he's basically picked very large wingers who are good in the air, but still has Blair Murray, who's not very good, which sort of you can see where this is sort of going. And then the thing is, yes, Sammit's been on fire for Bristol. A lot of that's been on the wing. Some of that's been a fullback with the ball. Without the ball, you got to remember Bristol Bears are a team who very much go on the philosophy of you score 4 tries, we'll score 5. So defense at times can be quite optional. And,
Mm.
it showed in the game against Exeter, and Zammit was dropping balls cold. He's not even going up in the air. He's just stood there under it. And I find his positioning in defense on the wing can be quite questionable at times, especially as he's still getting used to this sort of thing again. It's a bit worrying. And by all accounts, he is going to be starting at fullback for us. And I imagine George Ford and Freddie Stewart are going to be laughing, especially when they're backed up by 3 absolute meatheads of a back row who just love getting over the ball. So yeah, it's kind of worrying, and I feel like this game's almost as much about damage control as anything.
Mm. I mean, is that Steve Tandy's plan? Is like slow it down, just milk that clock, just grind it down, make sure that we lose by 2 scores instead of 4?
Um, yeah, but I mean, I kind of feel like that's almost the sense of it. And he is a defense coach and a very sure thing has been a Scotland fan for a while. They brought a toughness and a hard, to Scotland that made them very hard to score against.
Mm.
So even though they weren't necessarily, even when they were winning games, they weren't getting blown away as often. So I'm hoping now he's going to have a bit more time that goes through. I'm still a bit worried that we haven't really solved a lot. So there are some issues we haven't quite solved. Like a lot of people asking, where's Tommy Ref or where's Ross Moriarty? Big physical guys who just love defense. I think to an extent we've covered some of those, but I still think there's too many people in that squad who are either turnstiles or don't necessarily, you don't obviously see their work rate, so to say. So yeah, I'll be honest, this only talking about on-field stuff is actually quite refreshing for me at the moment. So,
This might be one of those you should buy a dog and pick this day to take a long walk.
oh, do you want to even, do you want to? I mean, sorry to share something a bit personal, but I'm getting a vasectomy on Saturday, so it'll be seeing which is more painful.
I was going to say, which one are you more looking forward to?
I don't know. I'm half
Maybe
tempted
it
to say
needs
I
to
don't want the anaesthetic. It can't be as painful as me watching Wales later.
Oh, yeah. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Do you know what?
Alan, what?
Oh, sorry.
Alan, what about you? Can you put on one of those like daffodil hats? Is it a daffodil hat? And explain to us why Wales have a fighting chance in London on Saturday.
So my wife spent 17 years in Wales, and my stepdaughter was born there. So and she's got an awful lot of Welsh friends. So I have to support Wales, even though I feel Wales fans weren't the most gracious when they were really good. But I can't indulge in the Schadenfreude of some of my podcast host colleagues. But and also, as I say, it just feels unkind teasing Wales fans at the moment. But I don't know. I mean, like even in the Frank Hadden years and the Andy Robinson years, Scotland occasionally put in a performance against England. Admittedly, not at Twickenham, or sorry, Allianz Twickenham. But
I refuse to call it Twickenham.
fair, 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 fair. I refuse to. I'm kind of toying with the idea of refusing to support the sponsors, but I'm sure they're quaking in their boots. I'm withdrawing that. But I think, look, I think for Wales. Had it been at Principality, I would have said maybe there's a chance of Wales doing something scrappy. Because Celtic nations can always motivate themselves against England. It's not difficult for us to sort of create a narrative whereby England are the baddies and we're out to get them out in whatever way we can. I think that's a lot more difficult to do when they're at home. Um, Although not impossible, but I think this is a good England side that seems to be well coached.
I feel like
Um,
to turn things around, I feel like Wales need a coach who's an innovator. Either of you, is Steve Tandy that guy?
he was great as a Scotland's defence coach. Um, I can't remember which Welsh region he was at as a coach
Ospreys,
normally. Sorry?
Ospreys. He was the head coach of Ospreys, sort of by default when various other head coaches got sacked, and his tenure didn't end particularly well.
No, but
But then
but
he's
all
gone and got more experience from there.
yeah, and all
Um,
sporting careers, managerial careers end in failure unless you're someone like Sir Alex Ferguson. Um, but I think um, and he achieved some good stuff at Ospreys, didn't he? Before everything went bad.
Basically, when the money ran out and all big the big profile names left, so your is it your Tommy Bowes and like once they started going, I mean, similar with some of the other Welsh sides when we lost some of the bigger high quality talent, but weirdly the form dipped. But but if you listen to Dave Redden, he'll tell you that non-Welsh having non-domestic players is a waste of money and blocks talent and stuff. But
The
what would I know?
SRU would seem to agree, but Franco Smith very clearly doesn't. He's getting a little bit pouty about losing the likes of Henko Venter.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird. It's weird how having these sort of people are going to hold thing. But do have one small crumb of comfort, which, if my prediction for the Six Nations is right, is probably going to end is Wales have won a Six Nations more recently than England.
Haha. Well, that's good pub trivia.
That is excellent. Not more recently than Scotland, and Scotland haven't won it more recently, unfortunately.
Well, they haven't won it. Whilst it's been six.
Oh, we are,
Reigning
however,
five.
I'm sorry for doing this, but we are, however, the reigning Five Nations champions.
And Benetton
Uh,
are the reigning Rainbow Cup holders.
I
That's
mean, only 27 years ago, and we're still clinging to it. So.
both of those claims pale in comparison to the fact that the USA are Olympic rugby champions and permanently. That's never going to change.
Yeah, God, I as much as I love rugby, I would hate to see that in the Olympics. It would just be such a horrible, like the full form. Like sevens, I think is perfectly timed. It's got the sort of perfect amount of time for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, guess who's going to the HSBC Sevens in quote New York, which is actually New Jersey next month? I can't wait. I've never been to
Is
a
it
Sevens
Philippa
tournament.
Tuttiett?
What's that?
Philippa Tuttiett, she's going. You didn't give me a chance to guess.
Oh,
I don't know who she is. I just think it'd
this
be a
guy.
guess.
Oh, but I should reach out to her. Maybe I could. Anyway, uh, any last thoughts, either of you, on opening weekend? They really should have saved France versus Ireland for the final match of the round, right? Like these games should be played in the exact opposite order. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Mm,
Scotland being in the middle, either way would work. Yeah. I think the thing is they probably want a good curtain opener
Yeah,
rather
that's true.
than what might be a spanking. Sorry, Harley.
yeah,
Uh,
I'll be honest. I'm inclined to agree. I think that I said maybe if you swap the Scotland and England, there's Scotland, Italy, but and England, Wales around. I think maybe then the pacing might be better. I think
Mm,
France, Ireland, even as it's being played, that's a fantastic curtain opener. And then obviously for the closing thing, you've got England, France then, which all right, Grand Slam could be over for both of them by then, but it
yeah.
still feels like a bigger game.
yeah.
Well, I'd like to take a quick moment to remind our viewers and listeners we really depend on you for our success. If you've gotten this far, maybe you'll take a moment to like and subscribe, maybe tell a friend or two. We're steadily growing, but we can't do it without your support. So please do spread the word. I can't emphasize this enough. Engage with us on social media. We're highly likely to reply to any comments, and I can honestly say we're always open to feedback. If there are things that we should do better, please let us know, and we will take it seriously. Most importantly, thank you all so much for your ongoing support. It's an absolute trip. Y'all are the best for reals, yo. Anyway, we'll call that a cap on the opening round. Next, I want to get into the tournament overall, big picture. We've already mentioned France are our reigning champions. They have the benefit of 3 home games this year. Italy are showing signs but lack consistency to say the least. Ireland are still a rugby colossus but are increasingly long in the tooth. I wonder if they've moved team dinners to like 5:30 p.m. England that can take their racist home song and just get in the sea. Scotland are still somehow at the mercy of the least imaginative coach I've ever seen while possessing the deepest talent pool I can remember. And Wales, so
Oh, there.
there was a Simpsons episode where they were writing the annual like Christmas card to send to the relatives, and after listing all of Lisa's accomplishments, Marge wrote, "And Bart, well, we love Bart." So the nations you both love most, Harley, Wales, we love Wales. What's your big picture take on the 26 tournament for Wales?
So as I said, I think for us it's definitely more about progression. I think you can't really be judging Tandy and the team too much on this. I think one thing it might flag up is whether or not Sherratt's right for this job. He's taken a big role with his attack, having already done sort of half a tournament and the Japan tour on his own. A lot. He come in under a lot of flack for his want to using a playmaking 12, whereas traditionally we've ended up having to go for a big bruiser there because our pack just isn't big enough to compete. And he was getting away with it with Cardiff, but maybe we need a bit more pragmatism. I think for us, it's definitely just seeing if we're progressing the right way. I think a good tournament great tournament for us would be 2 wins, but I think that's going to take a Scotland slip up, really. I think to get that. I did come up with a bold prediction on either on Rap or somewhere else. I said Wales are either going to come fourth, beating both Scotland and Italy, or they come in dead last and they're going to lose to them both. I think if we beat Scotland, which is a big if, then I think we will beat Italy,
Mm.
no problem. But but I also feel like that if we don't beat Scotland, like that series of drubbings against some very physical teams, by the time we get to Italy, we're either going to be on such a change side, or I think you're going to have a lot of demoralised men in camp. So that could be an issue.
Alan, what about Scotland? We already talked about Flatline Toonsy. Are you expecting an actual bump, a better result this year?
Look, if results go the way that the bookies would predict, I think Scotland will be fourth again. I And this is where we're back again to me repeatedly running into the mirror, hoping to play with the puppy on the other side. But I think we're going to be second this year. I don't know how we're going
I
to
like
do it. I
it.
haven't sat down and crunched the numbers, but I think we'll also end up missing out on first due to conceding one try too many or something, so we'll lose out
Mm.
in points difference. Anyone that's followed me on social media or on the podcast will might notice a pattern where I make bold predictions. That at one day, in the basis that one day they'll be right, one of them will be right, and I will look prescient. A bit like Sean Everett's selection policy at Edinburgh, I'm just throwing spaghetti of predictions at the wall and seeing what sticks.
As I keep telling
Will it?
Edinburgh fans, sorry, Dave, as I keep telling Edinburgh fans, what you need to do is have a team come and beat you 35-0 at home, and then Sean Everett will have to leave. That is that's how the Sharks did it. And I'm not bringing back up former glories for Cardiff at all here, that one. I mean, I can sort of see Scotland getting a thing. Like England at home, all right, I know England are much improved, but I could see Scotland could win it. I think you've got France at home as well. Is that the
Yeah,
other home? Yeah, so again, don't really have too much fear over in France. And I think that France halfback pairing could be quite interesting between Jalibert and Dupont, both two
Mm.
players who want the ball and want to dictate. So if they
Will it?
clash, and then
Will it take?
Italy
Sorry,
and
go ahead.
Italy and Wales away, I think you could I can I can see where you'd get 4 wins, and then it's just whether or not you can get over the hoodoo over Ireland.
Will it take a locker room mutiny to get over that hump? We all remember the famous draw against England, where Finn said, "No, I'm taking the keys. Sit down."
yeah. I don't know if that was quite as much as it because I think that was a misunderstanding. I think the argument there was, and I hate to be fair to Townsend, but I think the argument there was that Finn said we're just kicking the ball away, and Townsend said you're just not doing it well enough. You're not doing it in the right areas. And everything was fine with them after that. There was no problems at all, and they've got on very well. We don't talk about the bit in the middle.
No.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. The famous Fidem, I'll do it myself kind of mentality. Um, that can work in the individual game. I don't think it works over a championship. I think teams need cohesion and they need vision, and that needs to be shared between the coach and players. Does sound like it's more shared than it's been. It does feel fine. As I say, finally, the sort of top 2 inches in the brain um, do seem to be that much better organised. I mean, other teams are doing it too. It's no guarantee, but Scotland's problems have been largely self-made and psychological. So if we
I
can
had
sort
never
that.
heard that characterization of how that game went and how that interaction in the locker room went. Did you see an advanced press of of Toonsey's autobiography or?
No, I mean, what I saw was the interviews afterwards when they were probably trying to damage Limit. So it may be that I'm being a Pollyanna once again, David. Um,
It's so funny because all the Scotland fans I know loved that game for the result, and that is one of my least favorite games because it ended up in a draw. It's just I'm anti-draw, and it was so close after regaining the lead and having it, and then England stealing a draw. It was like the worst possible outcome. It's so weird how most Scotland fans have a completely different feeling about that match than I did.
I think that varies as to whether you're a fan of your team or a fan of the sport. Although you not liking it, actually that falls down a little bit there. But from my point of view, although I was gutted, I was a bit like, actually, given the game that was there, that probably feels fair. 30 all. And actually, that's why Scotland have then gone on to win at Twickenham, which I think it last happened, I mean, I think I was 9 when it last happened. Was it 1983? So
I don't
you,
know.
you have to
Yeah,
get close to get the hoodoo off your back.
I think personally, David, you don't like it because you're American. American sports don't have draws; they just
Yeah,
don't. It's certain things. Whereas I
yeah,
think
we don't do
I
that.
re I remember that because everyone loves to talk about that game. One thing they forget is That was the 2019 Wales Grand Slam winning game. And even in the pub in Cardiff, I was watching it with a load of people from work, and we did the whole Super Saturday. That wasn't the we weren't talking on St Mary's Street afterwards talking about the Wales game. We were talking about that game because it was just fantastic and it was just something going on all the time. And I think as an actual spectacle of the sport, all right, fundamentally and serious because of the end resulting score, like everyone knows if both teams score over 30, the game is no longer serious. It technically becomes
Fair.
basketball with more contact. But it was just such a good game, and there were moments, both George Ford and Finn Russell just showing exactly
Yeah.
why they're two of the top game breakers.
No, you
Just
make a
the way
good
they
point.
can
There's a
control
there's a
things.
difference between a game that's good for the fans versus good for the neutrals. So, like the USA women versus Australia in the World Cup. Everyone I know thought that was the greatest game ever, and that was the worst kick in the stomach I can even remember in the last like 5 years. But anyway, um, well, in the interest of, good journalism, we're going to call it. I feel like we should talk about teams not Wales or Scotland. By the way, of course, I've got my one of my normal Scotland jerseys, but in the interest of representing both of you, I don't know if you've even seen this, Harley. The
Oh,
This is the Junior Jacks t-shirt jersey from the Free Jacks tour to Wales just this past
oh wow.
summer. It's a lovely little because it's the
Uh,
Junior Jacks. This is like a 3XL. It
if
barely
you've got a
fits.
David,
I
I've
quite
gone
like the
with a
look of
I
that.
can get
political
you one.
statement. I've gone with a political statement for this podcast saying that we stand with Ukraine. But I think both of us have lost to Harley's T-shirt, which is frankly one of the best puns that I have seen.
Harley, you want to explain it nerdily for us?
Uh, yeah, basically, it's one of those stereotypical nerdy t-shirts where they have a word and it's spelt out using chemical elements. The only thing that annoys me is they've got something called Joliotium, which is clearly a made-up one just so that they can get the Joe and Joe. The full thing reads, "I tell dad jokes periodically."
Jolly Otium. Dang.
It does kind of pain me slightly, but also at the same time, I'm not a proper chemist. I'm a biochemist, so it's like,
Surely they could just have had whatever, I don't know what element has the atomic letter of J, and then oxygen, potassium in the last one. But
I
there
don't
we
think
go.
there is one that's just J. That's the
Ah,
thing
that
off the
might be
top of my head
funny.
now.
I,
Who knows? It
possibly
might be an
my
undiscovered one.
I found a t-shirt in a thrift shop once that was my favorite all time. It just said, "In dog beers, I've only had three." Um, Anyway, so last year saw France winning the competition with four victories, though England and Ireland also had four. There were more tries scored in last year's Six Nations than any previous year. The total hit 101, with France nabbing 30 of them and Louis Bielbarré getting eight in the process. France, they are, firing to defend their title, but they've seen massive changes. Antoine Dupont is back, but Galtier, we already mentioned it, has left out some seriously big guns. Their all-time leading try scorer, Damien Penaud, he got the no thanks card, along with Aldrit and Fiku. Plus, my all-time favorite player was just forced to retire. Harley, have France kind of gone nuts?
It's a weird one. Some sort of yes and sort of no. Like obviously, Unio Antonio, that man has been trying to retire for nearly 5 years now, and they just keep bringing him back. It was getting to the point of a really terrible American serial drama, cop drama. It's just 2 days from retirement.
Just when I
Damn it!
thought, just when I thought it was out, they dragged me back in.
Yeah, it's so you can't find that. Peno's just because he's a bit of a strange goose. Let's say,
Yeah.
like he's reportedly saying he doesn't want to score tries anymore. He wants to assist tries, and obviously that's not what France want him for. France want him to do weird stuff. Also, I think there's a lot of talk of France. Basically, everyone's starting to copy England now and go for that wonderful kick chase thing because the laws make it stupid because it's a good chance to get possession. If not, it's getting a set piece further up the field.
Mm,
And you've got someone like Atasogbe who's on red hot form.
yes.
So it's like, well, to go in there. I'm surprised. I'll be honest. I'm more surprised Jaliber's in and starting. Like I genuinely thought, with no Intermac, they were just going to go back to the tried and tested of Ramos at 10. So that's a bit one. Fiku again getting on a bit, and there's some very good young centres coming up in France, and as well, how do you blood them ready for the next World Cup?
I'm
So
not convinced Mac's been the same since the big injury.
no, and I feel like he's not getting enough time to get his mojo back up as well. So it's
Mm.
like, so I said it's going to be really interesting with France how they try this halfback partnership because they have in the past and it doesn't really work because Jalibert is best when he's got a 9 who's just giving him the ball and letting him do what he needs to. Dupont is best when he has a 10 who's just sort of organized. I think was it in the one of the I think that it might have been the 2023, even the 2023 World Cup France preview for and Squidge was talking about how like with France and Dupont drives Dupont drives the French team on holiday, but Intermax only make sure they've all got their passports, their keys locked at the door. So it's one of those. I mean, I do like the idea that in about 50 years' time, you're going to find out that Dupont and Intermac have moved in together, and they're always like a completely platonic couple.
Again, a zany American style cop show.
I was thinking more a remake of The Odd Couple.
Yeah.
Intermac's sitting there, sort of very traditional, and Dupont's sitting there with that stupid big yellow dressing gown on.
Except
Well,
it would be the French version where they're both entirely similar. They would just both be sort of sipping their espressos.
you still look at that.
um, Alan, I'm sorry to do it to you, but I'm tabbing you to talk England. They last won this competition in 2020, but they're currently riding an 11-game win streak. The real question is, will we finally see Pollock get the punch he so richly deserves? And, what are you expecting big picture from England this year?
So, Henry Pollock, I should be gutted that he chose England and not Scotland, but I'm quite glad that I don't have to deal with the cognitive dissonance of having to like him when he's a Scotland player. He is hugely talented. He is a fantastic player, and I think he's my super sub for my Guinness Fantasy Six Nations team
Oh,
because if he comes on,
good
he'll
one.
score triple points, and he's going to come on, and I think he'll do quite well. So that was why I made him the super sub. England, look, I think the Death Star is probably fully operational there, isn't it? I think they are doing a very good kick to compete game. They've got good players for that. George Ford's an excellent tactical kicker, and he can slot a drop goal if you need. Um, yeah, I, I
How
one
old is George Ford now? Is he 33?
my
I
my
think he's
window of
younger.
what's old in sporting terms has
I think he's
changed since
younger than
I've
you
got
think.
older.
Hmm.
He's because I think he's one of those who's been around for a long time. Like I got surprised when I realized Joe Lloyd is only 24 and he's been around for like 12 years.
Huh. Well,
So
as Indiana Jones famously said, it's not the years, it's the mileage.
Yeah, 1993. So what is he? By the end of the Six Nations, he'll be 33.
Hey,
So he is
nailed
he
it.
is getting on. He's not a future pick, but then Finn Smith is probably the heir apparent to George Ford's role, and he's
Yeah.
injured, isn't he? So, um, and Marcus Smith is a sort of Finn off Timu, isn't he? Um, so
I think
Harley,
he's.
Ireland. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Finn Smith, Marcus Smith. He's sort of been more deployed as that alternate fullback. So you get 60 minutes of Freddie Stewart jumping at your fullback and breaking their poor wee legs, and then Marcus Smith comes on when everyone's too knackered to make tackles anymore. That's
I'm not convinced
interesting.
Borthwick knows what to do with Marcus Smith.
I'm not sure anyone really knows what to do with Marcus Smith, including at times Marcus Smith.
Yes, and including that Six Nations documentary.
Oh
he's
God, that
going to
was
get a
awful.
G-Wagon.
Marcus. Like anyway, Harley, Ireland are missing three of their top flight loose heads. I imagine Alan's probably going to want to jump in as well. The question is, will the Scrum be Ireland's downfall in 2026?
Do you know, ironically, I think it might be the opposite because the players who Andy Farrell, Andrew Porter and Joe McCarthy, not Joe McCarthy, the other one, the brother. I was I've forgotten the bloody name of the other loose head now. The problem is with Leinster and their identikit players, you forget who they are. Basically, they're very good round the park props. They're not the best scrummaging props. And Andrew Porter's been getting found out. Whereas the two people who are going to be starting on Thursday, Jamie Lockman and Michael Milne, are pretty much scrummaging props for first up.
Okay, good point.
I mean, that's part of the reason why Milne was slipping down the Leinster pecking order. He doesn't really fit in the system they were playing that, but he's a very good prop there. So actually, if anything, this scrum's probably going to be slightly better than normal.
But does the scrum matter in the way that it used to, Harley?
I would
don't
like
know
to
if it
steal
does.
from. I'd like to steal from a quote from Jeff Neville from is it the from a provincial state of mind, and the scrum doesn't matter until it does, and sometimes for Ireland the scrum mattered. So I think when depending on the team they're playing, so France potentially can use it as a weapon. England definitely can and will use it as a weapon. The other three, it's probably not going to be as much of an issue. So but I think Ireland have got other issues as well. So one of their big ones that's been going wrong for a long time is been their lineouts. So
Yeah.
although they've got some fantastic lineout operators at pilfer and ball, I think on ball they do struggle, particularly with Joe. And I do actually mean Joe McCarthy this time. He's not particularly good at getting up in the air. I know they have
The
started using him, but
anti-communist
it's not.
guy?
Yeah, that one.
Reds under the bed.
Alan,
Oh, I love the sidetracks.
what's your assessment of Harley's assessment?
So I think he's spot on. And while I'm saying the scrum doesn't matter as much anymore, the line out really bloody does, doesn't it? No line out, no platform, and very difficult to launch. If you're not getting good quick ball, clean ball off the top of your line out, you can't set up mauls or you can't launch strike moves. And both of which are incredibly potent weapons in the attacking coach's arsenal these days. So yeah, the line out will be an issue. It'll be interesting to see if they've slain those demons.
Well, for Italy, I'm just going to go ahead and admit it. I'm really bad at covering Italy every single year. The only thing you can say about my Azzurri coverage is that it's consistent. This year they've got Tommaso Menincello tearing it up, but it's hard to feel too optimistic. By the way, I also think his last name makes me think that there has to be a cocktail. Like I want to be drinking a Menincello whenever he's playing, but I tried to find like melon liqueur, and all I could find was Midori, and all I could think was about that Still Game episode, and I was like, I can't get anywhere near this.
But honestly, yeah, Baduri and limoncello and soda, you could call it a Menincello spritz, a meloncello.
But it's gonna look like a grasshopper or something.
Isn't that like it's a bad thing? A wee umbrella in it, you'll be great.
If you put enough limoncello in it, you won't care.
Ah, there's the
Also
key.
true.
Do either of you have thoughts on Italy this year?
I'm again, Cheeks. I've sort of alluded to it, that I feel like their first choice halfbacks haven't really been playing a lot much. I'm not entirely sure how Breck has been getting on in top 14 either. But one thing that should worry them is Benetton have been pretty bad and a lot worse than some of their parts this season.
Mm.
And that's where they're drawing quite a decent bit of their core. You're still going to have players who are going to be fantastic, like Rutzer is. So, I mean, we're talking about how important the lineout is. A player like Rutzer is essential for Italy spoiling teams because he is just very good. He's an incredibly underrated lineout operator. I know a lot of people talk about his fancy offloads and his breaks and stuff, but I think is real piece is he's very good to get. He's very quick to get up, and he knows where to jump to. It's very similar to one of Mario Itoje's super strengths in just causing you hell. So that's good. It'd be interesting with so you got the Canoni brothers. Props, I'll be interested in again because I haven't seen too much, and the Italian sides have been struggling set piece, in that side of the set piece. But as Alan said, unless you go out of your way to cause people problems at scrum time, it might not be an issue.
Did I
And
imagine it, or was Monty Ioane playing in the last URC round? Is he out of the squad for some reason?
I I didn't think he was still playing with Ben. I thought he'd gone back to. It's one of those ones where I know he went back to went to Super Rugby or NBC and then came back and then went again. So
Yeah,
I
I
I,
thought
I
it.
don't know, or was it a fitness thing and just trying to get him up to speed? I
Interesting.
mean, they do have quite a number of back three options now.
This is a beautiful example of how consistent my Italy coverage has been, by the way.
I'm using my second screen to frantically try and catch up. But in Google News, the last Yanni story is the 14th of November of last year. So I'm not sure. I think he's playing for Leon now, not in
Yeah,
the. So
I was pretty sure
Interesting.
on Bennett he wasn't playing for Bennett anymore because their main wing choice has been Adogwu and Liner, I think
Oh, that's
for quite
right.
a while.
That's right. That's right.
Although Adogwu's been playing it was I think he was playing at 13 on the weekend.
Yeah, and scored at least one try. It looked good doing it. Though bit of a revolving door on defense. Um, Alan, every year there's at least one or two surprises in the men's Six Nations. What kind of, interesting tidbits or unexpected outcomes are you looking forward to this year? Like when you look at the fixture list, what do you think might be like the ooh weekend where everyone's abuzz then to the following Monday?
I have it in my head that Italy might beat France. I don't think Italy will make a massive dent into the Six Nations, but I think in a one-off game, I think watching Italy is very much like watching a post-2000 Scotland. You know, all this, lots of hope, and I know from that, having been a Scotland fan through that time, progress isn't a straight line, and actually consistency is one of the last things which we still haven't got as discussed about Scotland. Um, and it's the most difficult stage. So I think Italy are a team that can do well, very, very well on their day. And actually, I'm not sure, even though I'm saying we should be looking to beat Italy, and I think we should. I'm not sure that Italy beating Scotland's in Rome is a massive, oh my goodness, everyone's a buzz about it.
Hmm.
Um, and I just have it in my head that they might just turn over France. France go, unhappy in the squad, etc., and maybe a wee bit complacent. It's only Italy, that kind of thing creeping in, and then Italy just sneaking a win. And I would like to apologise, given the success of my prediction. I'd like to apologise for any of your Italian supporting listeners, David, because I probably just jinxed that.
Well, you kind of ended up lobbing that over the plate for me, Harley. Um, are France going to be weird this year? Are they going to do, that? Are they going to field weird sides and do the top 14? I only care when I'm at home thing, or are they going to take it seriously and really be interested in backing it up from last year? This opening weekend could determine the whole thing. Amazingly.
I feel like France are going to be fairly serious, but I do also think there is a more than one eye on 2027. I think it's going to be weird in just that because some of these names that we've seen for a while aren't going to be there, and it'll be seeing how they bed in. Um, I think there's a bit of a difference for the Six Nations and the top 14. The top 14 is a 26 game regular season, so you do have to pick and choose when you put players in, even with the size of the squads France had, especially that's the reason why they have these large squads. With Six Nations, it's 5 games, it's condensed now, like it's only a 6 week tournament. So you feel like you don't really have the opportunity to chop and change. I mean, I imagine they'll
Hmm.
put an experiment. I could see them putting an experimental side against Wales, just because I feel like Wales are hitting that point of Italy was in sort of that sort of the early to mid 2010s, where basically you could put a full rotated side against Italy and still be confident of a win near enough. And I feel like Wales have sort of slipped down into that bracket right now.
Do you
I
know the thing that says Italy's better? The classic fantasy rugby strategy, Six Nations fantasy strategy of making your captain being a winger playing against Wales and picking your kicker to be whoever plays against Wales hasn't worked well for the last 2 seasons. Not Wales, sorry, Italy.
Italy, it does work for Wales though.
Sadly, it's going to work for
hence
Wales.
hence
I
the
couldn't have
hence why I
spoiled
don't
the
blame
ending
you
of
for
that
Pollock
there.
as your super sub because I think he scored a brace in like 10 minutes
Oh yeah, no,
last year.
I
So
wasn't going to labour that point, but yeah, that is why Henry Pollock's my super sub because
I don't blame you.
He's going to
I
come
do
on when the
kind of hope
game's
that
opening
him
up.
and Alex Mann have a face off, and it is something that's genuinely like interesting and not just a bit more of a Yorkshire Terrier going up against a Great Dane like Mann and
Now,
Ebenet Speth in the autumn.
oh, yeah, but why, right? Why, when, and I don't have a problem with all the nonsense Pollock does. Actually, I think it's quite good for rugby. We should probably be less po-faced and less pearl
He's the
clutching.
ultimate. If he's on your team, you love him guy, and if he's on anyone else's team, you hate him.
The Scottish expression is he's a wee naff. He's a big naff, actually, but yeah. But so when he's doing all this stuff, English fans are like, oh, it's just Pollock, it's just him, etc. It's good spirits, unclutch your pearls, all of which is great. But see, as soon as BRA or someone shouts in his face, or Bordeaux and the crowd are booing him, everyone's like, well, it's a bit much, he's only young. Like, pick a
I
lane.
I do agree. I also think a lot of the noise around Pollock actually covers over one of the really important factors about Pollock as a player, which is he's fucking good. He just is.
Yeah,
So
He is.
it really is.
like he like the reason why I don't mind him being all like that is because he's a very good player and he can back it up. When
Yeah.
you're chatting, getting up in all people's faces, we and the team I play for, and like the seconds team, we've got a nine who's just constantly getting in people's faces. It's like, James, we're 53 points down. Just fucking get the ball out of the ruck.
And Harley, can I ask, does he, because this is traditional for nines, does he get in people's faces and then run behind the second rows?
in in fairness to him, he will stand up. But the problem is then he's too busy scrapping. It's like, right, no nine, right. Well, now we're gonna have to do 10 phases of pick and goes until he realizes we're still playing.
Well, Pollock's in that rare air where it's like, okay, if I punch him, I'm getting sent off. But if I punch him hard enough, he won't be able to keep playing. And he's the best player on the field right now. There's going to be some math involved, I feel like at some point during this tournament.
A business decision.
Okay. Got to get to it. Any final big picture thoughts for either of you?
I'm gonna be very controversial. I feel like England, if they don't win, at least win this tournament, or certainly, probably really should get a Grand Slam. I feel like they should consider it a veiled tournament. I know they're away to
Wow.
France in the final weekend, but all this talk about releasing teams on a Monday, 11-game winning streak. Borthwick has this team how he wants to. Other sides are sort of either in decline or just trying to go back in the rebuild. Whereas England are, I can't see where England are going to evolve too much. Now they're going to be sanding off edges for that World Cup. So I think they
Ugh.
really, they should be there. I don't. I
I'm
can
really
see
mad.
them not
I'm
doing
really
it,
mad at you for
but
pointing this out. I'm really mad at you for pointing this out.
I said I can see them completely messing up at some point, and I imagine the English media will be like, "Oh well, it's fine because we did this, and it's France away,
Plus,
so it's
they've got
fine."
the emotional story with Maro Itoje, and like, public opinion's gonna be, ugh, gross.
One of the
Um,
reasons I love the Lions is I actually got to like shout for Maro Itoje because I think he's probably quite an impressive person. I just
yeah.
hate him when he's playing in an England shirt and enjoying the benefits of having the Itoje and even Tom Curry and Ty Burn. I was like, oh, I actually quite
Oh,
like these guys.
he's the ultimate I want him on my team guy. Skill is one thing, but also just his willingness to be like, okay, what, coach, what's the game plan? I'm in. Do you remember the game where it was still in the Eddie Jones era and Eddie Jones was like, mate, and he was like, at every line out for the other team, scream, just scream as loud as you can so they can't hear the line out calls. And he was like, yes, coach. And he just started doing it. So the first like three lineouts that happened, and eventually, I think it was Pierce, the ref, was like, "We're not doing that anymore, Morrow. Stop that right now." And he was like, "Okay,"
I
but
don't think
like,
it would have been
he's the
Luke
guy who
Pierce,
will
but
do that for you. What's that?
it would have been Luke Pierce if he's international because he's an England ref.
Oh, right. Anyway,
Unless it was a Prem game he was doing it in, which I could
this is
also
back in the
believe.
Eddie Jones era, which we don't need to talk about anyway. Alan, we've been chatting back and forth on WhatsApp. So I'm a big fan of Bill Simmons, the American sports, Potter, pundit, etc. Whatever you want to call him. He does a thing on his show where he'll do, "Are we sure that X is good?" Like everyone has decided the Kansas City Chiefs are favored to win the Super Bowl, and he'll say, "Are we sure the Chiefs are good?" In that same vein, I'm posing the question, are we sure Six Nations is good? Now, before you completely tear me apart, my only issue is Six Nations kills all other rugby during those weekends, except the ones the top 14 is like, sorry, dudes, you're playing. Um, anyway, with only 3 games to watch all weekend and knowing at least one is probably going to be bad, it's just kind of meh. Like, I know it's a huge deal. Please go ahead and convert me. I watched the documentary. That absolutely made it worse. Harley, Alan described Six Nations as the show for people in the UK. And, are these weekends big for you and your family? Like, either of you, go ahead and jump in and start the conversion process. Tell me why I should stop criticizing the Six Nations.
It's the pinnacle. So for me, it's the pinnacle of the sport. David, when you brought up, is the Six Nations ever good? I remember, so when I was young, on Sundays, nothing good was ever on television. And I'd managed to be watching the television. I'd snuck in, and I'd snuck into the living room when parents weren't around. And there was watching Channel 4, and there was this TV show called Abolish Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, that'll be funny." It was not funny. It was people talking about why we should abolish Christmas, and I think as an 11-year-old, I was absolutely blown away at the concept that anyone would abolish Christmas, and that we are talking 40 years ago. I still remember it. And I've never felt that way since until you said, "Is the Six Nations any good?" My
Wow.
first game was the 1817 game where Scotland beat France in 1986. And, I was at Murrayfield for that game, and it was just the best thing. And my dad commented that, they'd watched, obviously, Scotland had a very lean period prior to that, and he was like, I can't believe you got to see that. And actually, I've been hooked ever since. It's a massive thing for our family. Everyone goes down, meets up at a pub in Edinburgh. We found one that's slightly out the way, which is great when Hearts aren't playing at home, but it's a Hearts pub, so if they're playing at home, it's not so great. But yeah, but then because of all of that, I'm not giving you an unbiased opinion, because I'm talking about family stuff, roots going back, going back to a previous millennium, with my sort of experience of the game. So maybe I'm not unbiased, but it's the pinnacle of sport for me. And yeah, the other rugby stops, and I can see that as an argument, but you've still got the top 14. You've still got what's happening in the Southern Hemisphere. There are games you could watch. I don't believe you are run out of rugby matches, David. You will run out of time before you run out of rugby matches to watch during the Six Nations.
Harley, what do you think? Do you agree? Is Six Nations the pinnacle of sport?
I yeah, I do. I think certainly, at least with rugby, it's certainly one of the pinnacles. I mean, I think for me, the true pinnacle of sport is got to be the World Championships of Tiddlywinks. No, I just get yeah.
Which
I
is
think
referenced anytime someone gets sent off. We're playing Tiddlywinks now, ref.
yeah, that's why it's the pinnacle, because as soon as it is, yes.
They should cut away to a
Even
Tiddlywinks
even if even
tournament.
if it's a even if it's a slightly if it's a high shot penalty, it's like, oh, what is this Tiddlywinks now? It's like, listen, I'd hate to be a community ref. No, same as Alec. For me, it's it's like it's one of the few times when people in work will stop talk. Bear in mind I work in Wales, and it's one of the few times people will talk to me about rugby. And I'm
Mm.
sort of do rugby podcasts and stuff. Even like in the rugby club I play at, they'll make it's very rare they'll make plans to go what to to all meet up and watch one of the big URC games or one of the derbies. There's only a handful of us, a couple of Cardiff season ticket holders. But when it comes to Six Nations, it's right. Shall we? Right, we haven't got a game on because WRU. I'm not sure if it's the same as Scotland, but they basically stopped the community game during big home internationals, other than a few rearranged fixtures. So you go and then you meet at the rugby club and you have have a good old sesh. I think the plan is to have like a quick training session. Meet go to the ground, have a training session, have a few jars, watching the games. You know, it it's a big part of the community of things. And for me, it's always like sitting with my wife. We'll have like our one of our favorite teas. Sitting there watching all the games. It's one of the few times where my wife doesn't question how many games I'm watching on a weekend as well, because she knows this. She knows there's three on a weekend. So it's yeah, I can't make anyone love it, because sometimes I don't love, it's particularly been a Welsh sport in the last couple of years. I find it really hard to,
Mm.
to love it, but I can't not. I'm always in an abusive relationship watching Wales play at the moment. As much as I know it's bad for me and my mental health, I keep coming back every time.
Well, you already brought up the fact that they're doing it over 6 weekends instead of 7 this year. I read a kind of long form BBC article about that and how it might, favor the teams that have greater depth and so on. Um, what do you think about the 6 week format? Is it better for viewing? I also read it kind of maintains that momentum, which I feel like Europe always loses. Do you like that change? And are there other tweaks you would make, Harley, if you were in charge?
I'd stop, making sure that Wales have to play Italy last, and England and France right at the start, so they give our squad a thorough bashing before we even actually play any team we might have a chance against. That'd be quite nice. It's not. I mean, selfishly, from like a sort of Cardiff's point of view, I'm glad now where there's only one game in that international block. So that's
Mm.
one game fewer without our players. Um, I get what a lot of people mean when it's stop start and it's going through. If you what for me, because I mean I feel the same with Europe. I feel like that almost needs to be one block. And having a few weeks, as a watcher of the rugby, it'll be nice. I can just go, right. It's Wales, Wales, Wales. Right, bit of a rest. Then it's Wales, Wales. So for me that's quite nice. The reason why it's finally done this is a bit annoying with the new Nations Cup thing, but I can see it as a good thing. I can see where the concerns are, but it's not like we're trying to play 20, it's not like we're trying to play like 16 games back
Right.
to back to back to back. And that's when you might need to have your play thing. So, for like a three, what you got to remember is the World Cup, you have a squad of only 33. And that's potentially 7 games. That's in space of about 6 weeks.
Good point.
So, and there's no limit with the Six Nations. So
Alan, what do you think about this change? And if I put you in charge, would there be other tweaks that you might make?
I'd make it that England and France and Ireland had to hop when they were playing. I think that would be a better tweak. No,
Fair.
seriously, I think, look, there's a player welfare argument, but it's difficult to argue that player welfare argument when nations are playing 4 games in the bounce in the autumn. Admittedly, if it's Scotland, 3 of them against Tonga and Fiji and the USA.
And
Sorry, David.
all the top 14 teams are like, uh,
Yeah. Well, I think there's probably quite a lot that we could improve in the top 14 to improve player welfare. For example, looking at the eye gouging. But
that's more Pro De2 style. The
yeah,
cameras are
fair.
the cameras are too good in the top 14.
Yeah. But I think there's an argument that it's better for the World Cup, because you're actually in more practice. And circling back to is the Six Nations any good question? Actually, is the World Cup all that? Because
Ooh.
there's so many mismatches and so many. And look, we all remember absolutely fantastic World Cup games. What was that amazing France New Zealand game? I watched it at 3 a.m. in a bar in Thailand in Koh Phangan, the France New Zealand game where the French came back, and that was amazing because there was some Kiwis, there was some French folk, and a smattering of Europeans who were all French for the purposes of that evening. It was just in the late lamented Christophe Dominici scoring an amazing
Wow.
try.
Answering a hot take with a hotter take, that's good stuff there, Alan.
Well, you've got to remember, my first game at Murrayfield predated the World Cup. So the World Cup didn't exist in rugby when I first went to an international game. So the first World Cup was in '87.
Oh, wow. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm proper old.
Uh, Harley, Captain Dowie Lake has explicitly said that the team is using the quote domestic turmoil as fuel unquote. When I see Dyer, sitting at home watching, that kills me. What can you give us superfan style about the selection for Wales this year?
Um, I feel like it is very much based on this whole aerial battle. Rio Dyer is very good. He's on red hot form.
You and I have talked
I,
about this before. I said, is being on the Dragons going to ruin Rio Dyer's career? And you were kind of like, maybe. And now he's not even in the whale squad.
I, I mean, it does show. I mean, there's quite a lot of us who think the Dragon Centre Angus, but and Iron Owen, if he was playing for one of the other three sides, he probably would have Wales caps by now.
Mm.
But I think I think the odd one is the player that everyone's everyone's perceived that he's been dropped for, which with Gabriel Hamer-Webb, who sort of was injured at the start of the season, has come into Leicester playing Champions Cup rugby and doing quite well in it. But his big strength is that he is, his number one strength is, well, one strength. If you look at his up, I mean, Dan from the Cardiff Central podcast will go on at great detail about his arms, but he's very good in the air. He's also worked with Jockey before. I do think slightly cynically, he avoided captaining him in Japan until he was already playing for Leicester because of the way the cap rules work. And I think it just means then doing that. That's not another big one is everyone talks about Tommy Raphael, but I look at the sevens they have picked in Josh McLeod and James Botham, and I say they are more similar to Jack Morgan than Tommy Raphael is really as players. They're both more sort of like Jack of all trades,
Yeah.
comfortable enough along the back row, very good in the tight channels for carrying, play a bit out wide, can be used as line out, but it's not their main threat, and they are equally good over the ball. But with Tommy Raphael is very good at getting a clean turnovers. And as long as you've got some big smashing the person back or chopping them down quick, you find McLeod and Botham can actually incredibly adept at tackling the play, getting up and then getting over. And I think that that's probably more how Wales are going to do it because we don't really have the people who are going to just smash people back. We don't have a Hanro
Mm.
Liebenberg, so I can sort of see it. I get a lot of pushback on that one, but I think it's just more that some of these other players they sort of close to replicate what Wales want. I
Harley,
said it's some bizarre ones.
do you think that, I mean, like, I know lots of with Neil Jenkins and lots of other Tens in Wales have spoken about, sort of like the burden of wearing the Welsh 10 jersey. Do you think there's a similar burden to wearing the Wales 7 jersey these days?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I think we've had such a long, strong chain of brilliant sevens. Martin Williams, Josh Navidi, Sam Warburton. Ellis Jenkins was seemed to be the next big thing before
Yeah.
injuries ruined him. And then we've got Jack Morgan coming through. Josh McLeod was hoped to be the guy for a while, but injuries went up against him. You know, it, you know, seven is if you ask people in Wales, and kids growing up what they want to be, what position they want to play, 90% of them will be saying 10 or 7
Huh.
because so that I think especially with the sort of type of role the set an open side flanker is, it's getting through a lot of work, it's being niggly, it's getting aggressive, and it sort of speaks to that sort of underdog nature. I mean, as a country which unfortunately we do kind of define ourselves as, we are the tip, we're a nation who've been oppressed by England. We use England to define who we are a bit. And I feel like the role of a 7 naturally sort of comes around to it. So that sort of
I
thing.
saw I saw a
Is it?
Welsh comic once saying that the only time Wales gets mentioned on TV is when they're using the size of Wales as an example to compare to something else. Like an asteroid the size of Wales is on its way towards.
I would point out that NHS Highlands, my employer, covers an area that is bigger than Wales. Um, Not the same population, I hasten to add, but yeah. I
I'm sure
think
it lacks the grit, though. I'm sure.
I would argue, though, that it's a bit rich, the Welsh arguing they've been oppressed by the English when the English used Welsh longbowmen to oppress the Scottish. Back in the days of Bannockburn and Robert the Bruce. I mean,
Tell me where the
obviously,
all I'm going to say is tell me where the dragon is on the Union flag.
Wow, this could turn into a completely different podcast. What I'm
with
very
the,
excited for, but Alan, basically the same question. Give us some Scotland players who you're surprised to see in or out of the squad, and give us a player who you think might surprise us this year.
So who am I surprised seeing out of the squad? I was surprised to see Gregor Hiddleston not in the squad.
Hmm.
I was a bit surprised to see Dave Cherry in the squad, but then I think Townsend does look at set piece solidity as being the big thing. And to be honest, Cherry's arrows in the line out are
You've got to start calling him Slinky Cherry.
oh, honestly, it's so good that I hate it because I didn't come up with it. It is that good. Um, Slinky is just brilliant. And if I were wearing a hat, Harley, I would doff it to you. Um, but so bit surprised to see Dave Cherry. Bit surprised to see Johnny Gray in the squad. Although, when we were talking about second rows, I quoted Snoop, and I won't say the word, but people act like they forgot about Gray. Um, and I think, but I'm even more surprised to see Johnny Gray in the team for the A International, which, yeah, just interesting.
Who
Not
is that
sure.
against? I don't know anything about that match.
That's against Italy. That's against Italy. So
Hmm.
Hiddleston is, I think, the starting hooker in that game.
And he's
But
also Loki in the Marvel movies. Is that no different guy?
genuinely, I think the Glasgow fans refer to him as Loki. Um,
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's
Speaking
good.
of which, if Jerry Blythe Lafferty's nickname is not Bluetooth, given that JBL make Bluetooth headphones and speakers, I have lost faith in rugby. I'm
All
also
I'm saying is Blythe Lafferty does nothing to dispel the image of all Scottish rugby players being rich Tories.
Yeah, I was particularly heartbroken when Chris Harris sort of like tweeted with a hashtag Team Saj for Sajid Javid in the Tory leadership election. I was like, oh, Chris.
Well, that doesn't top Tom Brady intentionally putting a MAGA hat in the background when he was doing a post game interview once. I never forgive that piece of shit. Uh,
And surely deflating
anyway,
the balls was a bigger issue, no?
fake news. Fake news, my friend. Uh, so we've been chatting for a good while now. Can you believe by the time you both wake up, it'll be the day of the first match? Like, what are your plans? Are you going to be watching live at all? Like, where are you going to be? What's the plan?
Well, I mean, first of all, I've got to go to work because it is a work day.
Uh,
Yeah.
But thankfully, kickoff's at 10 past 8 our time. So, it'd be nice. I think it'd be nice. So it's my grandfather's birthday tomorrow. So I think we're going around there having some tea, and then I'm gonna make a reasonably. It shouldn't be too late anyway. So just come start watching it. Probably end up watching it with me mum, to be honest. Because I'll be honest, my mum's the one who got me into rugby in the first place. So I think yeah, I'd
Alan,
be watching that and swearing at the TV.
Alan, are you going to be making the journey to sunny Rome?
No, no, no. I've been to precisely one Six Nations away match, 2010 game in Wales, where we had a hope spot. And I could see Harley just peeing himself laughing. I
Can you
could
come this
not,
year?
I could not speak after that game, but like I had no voice left at all.
I'm
But
told that seeing a game in Cardiff is the best rugby experience. I'm told that from people who aren't just Welsh or Welsh supporting.
so my dad's been big into his choral singing. He absolutely loves the bass part to Cumronda. And when they were singing that, you turned around to say, "Oh, this," and like Dad was gone, just staring ahead, singing the bass part in the stadium. I was like, right, we've lost Dad until this finishes. He was that was proper bucket list for him, being there, and you know, the anthem at Murrayfield is not too shabby. It's proper hairs on the back of the neck standing up, particularly with the lone piper, and you know,
Yeah. And you've
I
carried on that tradition. You have choir practice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And also Dad sang solo as well, so
I've had a singing lesson tonight for singing solo, and equally like Dad, I'm a bass baritone. So, uh,
Harley, are you a choir singer?
I am not any sort of singer.
Oh,
Welsh, Harley, you're letting the side down.
It's
that's
that
why he had to
one.
move to
That's that
England.
quarter of me that's a Yorkshireman in me. You know,
Does that quarter play a trumpet in a brass band?
no, no.
Okay.
I used to play bass in a Britpop band.
Wow. Never did I think I would have a show that had the phrase Britpop twice. Um, we're not going to take the time to go through the rounds. I need to let you both go and probably pay attention to my son. Um, Harley, give us your order of the nations this year. Is there a Grand Slam? Yes or no?
I don't think there is.
I'm going to write down the order as you say them.
I said I don't think it should be. I don't think there'll be a Grand Slam, but I feel like
Hard to
they
imagine.
should. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go up. So I think we're gonna go Wales, Italy, Scotland, Ireland, France, England.
Wales, Italy, Scotland, Ireland, France, England. So England take the
But
title.
no Slam. Even though I think really it should. They really should get the Slam. But I
I've
think
not
France
worked
will
this
do them
out
at the
at
end.
all, but I think from the bottom, Wales, Italy, Wales, Italy,
You get
Ireland,
earlier. You said
England,
Scotland
Scotland,
for second.
France. Sorry?
Earlier you said Scotland for second. Are you backing away from that?
No, no. I was going from the bottom up like Harley. So Wales, Italy, Ireland, England, Scotland, France. And I will be showing everyone this prediction should it turn out to be true.
Yes, of course. Um, Dr. Harley Worthy, I can't describe in these final little moments how much I've enjoyed this, nor how lucky I feel to have you on here to share your thoughts and your insights. You are the best. Alan, my newest brother from another mother, thank you so much. I really hope you got my Ghost Tower of Inverness joke. It was perhaps my most meta nerdy of all time.
I missed that. I'm so sorry.
It's a D&D module, the Ghost Tower of Inverness. I knew of Inverness as a place in Dungeons and Dragons before I knew it was an actual place on Earth.
I see. I'm not. I'm not a classic nerd in that I don't know any of these. I'm a geek more than a nerd. What can I say? I enjoy D&D for the acting, darling.
Okay, time to go. Harley, Alan, my friends, this was so much fun. Any final thoughts before we call it a day? Anything to plug for either of your shows?
I say not particularly. I mean, just check out the wrap. Our sister channel, Global Game 9. I think the Women's Rugby Treehouse should be starting up again soon to, to getting themselves warmed up for the Women's Six Nations, or proper
Yes.
rugby as we like to call it. Other than that, check us all out. Check out socials. You'll struggle to find me anymore. I basically have become a sort of social media hermit and try to avoid it at all costs at the moment.
Anti-social media. You found a new thing. Alan, what about you? What's coming up on the Scottish Rugby podcast? I didn't see a Six Nations preview. I guess this last episode was kind of a preview. There's no special episodes, or what's next?
I tried to get people interested in doing a live reaction after the game tomorrow, but unfortunately everyone has to be up at an ungodly hour, so that was not successful. I was like Gretchen trying to make fetch happen, unfortunately. Um, but we'll be reacting to the Scotland result. We'll either be cheering a good win in Italy or bemoaning a bad loss. And either way, I will be making puns. Johnny will be making me put money in the jar for Doddy's charity. And
what do you think the total is in the jar right now?
I think I'm at £25. A pound of bad pun, Harley.
I know I've already made at least one
I'll be
Simpsons
honest, I think I
reference.
could do 25 an episode. Some of my puns.
I know I've already made at least one Simpsons episode reference, but there's the one where Marge insists on creating a swear jar, and Homer steps on a rusty nail and that pokes all the way through the bottom of his foot and comes up through the top of his foot, and he goes, "Fiddle dee dee, that's going to require a tetanus shot."
Yeah.
I'll be honest, as soon as had that happen, it's really, really painful.
Oh, that was one of the
Although-
reasons I could never work in the emergency department was I can't. My feet are curled up talking about it. The thought of something going through someone's foot. I've picked fish hooks out and broken glass out my own foot, but the thought
Oh.
of it doing it for someone else freaks me out. And as I say, my feet are like claws thinking about it.
Now I'm thinking that you fish like a gangster or something, where like you get the fish out and then you smash a bottle over its head.
Not typically. Might have been done once, but no, it's more. It's more just being chronically untidy and leaving stuff over the floor.
Well, I'm very excited for the Six Nations. I'm almost surprised to say it, but I really am. This is going to be a great game tomorrow. I really appreciate your time, both of you. Take it easy. Give yourselves a nice sleep before this nonsense kicks into high gear. I'd love to catch up either during or after the Six Nations, but in the meantime, cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.
Thanks, David. It's been a pleasure.
Stuff.